We're currently seeing the best character selection we've seen from Dokkan in years. And in terms of the anniversary, at least in my opinion, the best overall character selection from part 1 to part 2 ever. But even beyond the anniversary, when you look at First Form Frieza, Saiyan Day Vegeta, God of Destruction Toppo, and currently the global first Rose, they are absolutely nailing the character selection way better, in my opinion, than 2023 already. And my hopes are that that's not slowing down anytime soon as we build to the insane 10th anniversary that they are themselves are hyping up a ton. And even though a quarter of the year is already done, we've already had so many characters released in this game. If you can believe this, there are still 19 characters left that they will release between the day this is uploaded on my channel and the end of the year. So you already know what we're doing. We're going to attempt the impossible, and that is predicting all 19 characters. We do technically know one because of Rose on Global, but that leaves us with 18 completely unknown characters. So here's how this will work. I went into my lab. I sat down. I analyzed all the data you could about Dokkan, potential EZAs, characters that are very old and need to be revamped, characters that aren't in the game yet somehow or don't have a Dokkan Fest or LR representation, and compiled the most optimal Nanogenix certified list of characters that we will hopefully see in some form between now and the end of this year. But so that I wouldn't yap forever, I'm only allowing myself 3 picks, with a couple of exceptions, per time slot. And yes, I am trying to predict exactly when these characters will come out. And right here on the sheet, I have one of the most important things in this whole video. I think it says that you should like the video. But more than that, there are characters like UI Goku, who is essentially completely underrepresented in terms of when he turns into UI for the first time, and so many more that we got to talk about today. Actually, I have to go AFK just like really quick. Wow, okay, that actually looks like a journey out there, and I'm also AFK, so you could kind of say this is like an AFK journey. Okay. This video is sponsored by AFK Journey. AFK Journey is free to play and it's available now on iOS, the Google Play Store, and even on PC via AFK Journey's official website, which guess what? You can find it down below in the description. Just click on that link and check out AFK Journey for yourselves. And here's the thing. AFK Journey has some cool new innovative features they're introducing to RPG games. So it does have the idle game aspects, but it's not just an idle game. Instead, it's an ethereal fantasy RPG game with awesome visuals, intricate gameplay mechanics, and an added dimension, yeah, I said dimension, with its PC compatible side-scrolling elements. And in AFK Journey, everything breathes with life. You'll embark on a fantasy quest in AFK Journey as Merlin, gathering heroes across 6 different factions and creating different winning tactics with different teams. You'll also be able to reunite with familiar faces from AFK Arena, as well as discover new ones. You'll explore diverse big maps, solve fun puzzles, and meet interesting characters with effortless one-handed gameplay. Now, beyond the familiar resonance of AFK Arena's heroes, AFK Journey also adds equipment resonance. AFK Journey is the same easy AFK. Resources grow while you're away from the game. And AFK Journey's official release offers over 40 free heroes, including epics, enabling you to explore diverse battle strategies. As the game goes on, you'll be able to take part in 7-day login events. You can also receive 200 plus free pulls. So click the link down below in the description, use my code AFK Journey 88 that you'll also find down below in the description. And when you do, you're going to get 100 diamonds and 18,888 golden coins. Thank you again to AFK Journey for sponsoring this video. I appreciate sponsors like that because 19 more character releases means lots of stones, means sponsors help me out a ton. But what doesn't help me out a ton is how random this first time slot is, which is the mid-April LR. Quick asterisk here, I'm going based off of JP, which will soon also be Global's timeline, but JP feels like the true timeline to try to look at. In 2022, it was a Goku and Piccolo that clearly followed the Raditz, and actually it was thematic. But in 2023, it was a Kel Dokkan Fest followed up with a LR Super Buu. So I'm gonna go in the vein of 2023, and presuming that the 2024 one will probably not have much to do with a God of Destruction Toppo, because I don't think this is the time that they drop a Jiren. I think they're saving him for a much more important section of the year. So first up, and since they've already done his counterpart as a standalone LR, so I don't know how they would intertwine, you know, like a part 1 and a part 2, so I feel like he could be his own thing, is LR Super Android 13. He's a character that I haven't touched in a really long time. They did already EZA his Dokkan Fest, you know, from 4 years ago. So this would be like a perfect time to just go, here you go, guys, LR Super Android 13. We don't really have much content to do a part 2 or a part 1 or an EZA, so just here he is in the middle of April. He's a thing. Have fun. If not him, they haven't done this in so long, and they don't really have a proper card, and this kind of feels like the time slot where they do just do random stuff. LR Great Saiyaman 1 and 2. Like, They just got through doing the Wrathful Dragon movie for New Year, so it could be just a time to be like, boop, here you go, do something with this. And there they are. And lastly, because of how random Super Boo was last year, the community's been asking for it. I would rather him come during a massive celebration, but if they just wanted to at least give him to us somewhere, LR Kid Boo. Now with the more random section of the month out of the way, that leads us into Golden Week, right? Where they usually cook up something pretty crazy, and they do try to include some of the more newish style mechanics. And because I think whether here or somewhere, Broly comes back around, right? Because they're saving that Tech LR Broly from like 4 years ago to put him somewhere. The Easy AM somewhere. Was that 5 years ago? I think that was 5. Jeez. Anyway, he needs the Easy A. I could see Broly versus Gohan Golden Week. Yes. And it's super important to understand that as I was making these picks, there are obviously sections where the part 2 does matter. Matter of fact, more often than not, the part 2 matters to the part 1 and vice versa. They're very lined up together. And so in this particular section, I do think Broly versus Gohan could show up here because we have the movie 8 Broly as a standard DFE TUR, but not his LR counterpart. And same thing with Second Coming Broly, because obviously I'm talking about the Second Coming version of Broly, movie 10 Broly, if you will. And he doesn't have a standard TUR. And same thing with that Gohan. He's obviously paired up with Goten for the LR. That was the counterpart to the Tech Broly I'm mentioning. But that Gohan has a lot of stuff missing from his fight against Broly in that movie too. So I definitely think we could see that here. Now, if not Broly movie themed, because obviously it is a little close to the anniversary where we just had DBS Broly, there is another versus fight that we haven't seen them tackle in a really long time. And that's Majin Vegeta versus Super Saiyan 2 Goku. And not allowing them to do the transformations or anything like that, just purely raw Majin Vegeta, purely raw Super Saiyan 2 Goku. Now, I know you're thinking, but Nano, we just got a Majin Vegeta. Not really. He's 2+ years old now. He was Saiyan Day of 2022. That's the last time we had MV. And I still think there's plenty of stuff they can do, especially coming back to the fact that we have Dokkan original animations, coming back to the fact that a lot of his actual fighting between Goku is really untouched, especially in the more new style of animations that we have. I absolutely think this is something that they will eventually come back to. Why not here? And if not that, and this is one of those where there's an asterisk, because I think the theme could be pretty solid here. And I think the theme is very much so coming up at some point. But U6 versus U7. Now, this is the asterisk because it could go a few ways. It could give us yet another Vegeta, because you might think, but Nano, we just got the Vegeta for Saiyan Day. Yes, but the last time we got a standalone Vegeta that wasn't attached to a Goku in some way or something was that Majin Vegeta I just spoke of. So seeing a few Vegetas this year really wouldn't be that surprising. So Vegeta with actually Kaba. I do think that a lot of the U6 characters are very like untouched. We got Kel last year, but we could definitely use a new Kefla. We could definitely use a new Caulifla. We could definitely use a new Kaba. So I definitely could see something with Vegeta and Kaba here. And the side banner units here would also pretty much write themselves. Be very, very easy to do so. And if not that, and the one that probably makes the most sense if they do revisit U6 versus U7, that'd be Hit versus Goku, right? Hit versus Goku is very much so underutilized in this game. And I definitely think we could see something from them very soon. And Hit is such a slam dunk with a domain. It could be like in his sort of like time skip domain of some sort. I know that probably wouldn't make a ton of sense, but they could do something cool with it. It could be a one-turn domain where essentially the boss couldn't hit or do anything, couldn't do any of its moves. There's a lot of stuff they could do there, and I think Hit would lend himself to domains very, very easily. Now that brings us to the part 2 unit for Golden Week, which will be our early May to mid-May LR. It should be related to the Golden Week characters. We'll start with U6 versus U7, and I wanted to put an asterisk here because I really started more with the LRs. I think we could see here. First up would be if we get Kaba and Vegeta. The part 2 LR could be Hit with the exact domain thing I just spoke of, along with maybe some other cool mechanics they could give a Hit. And Hit is very underutilized in this entire game, in my opinion. I know he has a Dokkan Fast, he has an LR with Goku, but still, he seems like a character that is very popular from DBS that they really haven't done a lot with, and I think we could absolutely see him here. Now, if they go the opposite and they give the Golden Week dual DFEs to Hit and Goku, then the part 2 could be a what if. They did a what if 2 years ago with the Goku and Gohan moment, which I know a lot of people really like. So they could kind of retread that a little bit, and again, give us a Vegeta and a Kaba unit, and a possible sort of like what if where they're both doing like a Gala gun together or something of that nature, where Vegeta would be the part 2 LR to a hit in a Goku part 1. Now, my next pick for this LR time slot is another one that was more of the motivator to place here in this part 2 and then build the part 1 around him, but that's Majin Buu. It's really kind of crazy that Majin Buu, just the normal base when he comes out of the thing, you know, Buu, before anything else is intact, is really not that utilized in this game. I know I just said that about Hit, but I'm going to say that again about Buu. It's kind of crazy, right? When you look at him and you go to look at all the characters he has available to him, his only real Dokkan Fest level character besides his random LRs, his random free-to-play LRs, is the one that is tied with Evil Buu, right? So it's not even just a standalone Majin Buu. And I feel like that's such a pivotal moment. There's still plenty of stuff and plenty of reference material there for them to do something with an LR Majin Buu, and would be the perfect aligning follow-up to a Golden Week dual DFE Majin Vegeta and Super Saiyan 2 Goku that leads right into an LR Majin Buu. And then lastly, coming back to the Gohan versus Broly, a lot of that stuff is already touched in terms of LR forms to stay just strictly to that movie. So I actually shifted focus here, and this is another asterisk one, but it's all in the same vein. Essentially, this is to help out the super bosses category, and that is giving us a Wrathful Broly, because again, I know we just got an LR DFE Broly, but we don't have hardly any representation for Wrathful Broly in this game. They gave us the one, they easy ate him immediately, and now they haven't touched that form basically again. So I could see him definitely somewhere in the timeline here, and he would make probably a perfect part 2 to drop right here. If not him, some form of a Paragus and a Broly could do either DBS or also DBZ. And if not the Broly theme here and keeping it with another sort of Broly style character, they could do another What If with Goku and Gohan and Goten or something in that nature. Because again, even though I mentioned the tech Gohan and Goten unit, that also has not been touched in that is a 5-year-old unit. That's a 2019 unit. So I know it would seem crazy to revisit that unit in some way, but 5 years, man. 5 years? Yeah. Now that brings us to the end of May, which is a standard just Dokkan Festival unit. 2 years ago, that was the ROF Goku and Vegeta, and then last year it was Turles. Now this is another one where the part 1 and the part 2 are typically in line. So I'm gonna sort of piggyback off of the Turles pick last year, which again, did we really need another Turles at that time? No, probably not. But he's also a good advocate for the reason why I think we'll see a lot of retread, because Turles was a very quick retread in my opinion, but one that when you go to look at this character, you're like, man, they really haven't done anything with him, and probably for good reason. I'm not sure he's the most hyped character, but that is Lord Slug. Where is he? It's kind of surprising. Wheelo got a character last year. Garlic Jr. finally got a character a few years ago with a Gohan DFE. Granted, sidebanding unit, but still, Slug is really a character that they've not done a lot with in this game. So I'm going to absolutely see a Slug filling this time slot, which is kind of like cooldown time slot, right? Because if you're familiar with the JP timeline, Tanabata, which is a Dokkan Fest LR, is just a month later, literally 30 days after the release, whatever this time slot unit is, we're getting a Dokkan Fest level LR. So this is the time to sort of like chill out and just release something like a Slug. But if they don't go the Slug route, and I do think we'll see more Tournament of Power as this year goes on, maybe not like an overwhelming amount, but definitely some here and there. It could be a Tournament of Power Piccolo and Gohan. That's a moment that is really only represented in this game via a sidebanner unit, and absolutely, if they can make the Tournament of Power Android 17 and 18 into a unit, they can make the Tournament of Power Piccolo and Gohan into a unit. And last, but certainly not least, and maybe the one I have the most probably like hope / inkling of him being a character sometime this year, and this is piggybacking off the fact that they love to utilize those scenes from games, but Oob. If you pay attention to Kakarot, you pay attention to my channel because we covered it here on this channel, there was the Oob DLC for Kakarot, which gave us more source material. It probably made the stonks rise up a little bit on these characters. So I absolutely could see at some point in time this year an Oob that actually references scenes specifically from the DLC. So don't be surprised when we see an Oob within the next like 12 months in this game. And I really do put a lot of stocks into the fact that I do think we will see Oob sometime this year. Now, moving past that, that brings us to our mid of June LR. Again, this will be part 2 to the part 1 we just discussed and should be related to the part 1 unit. So obviously a relation to Slug. And again, this is another one that just seems like such a slam dunk, such an obvious choice at some point, is an LR False Super Saiyan Goku. Now, I don't think they'll ever call it False Super Saiyan. We might be really unlucky and it might just be a base Goku that has the aesthetics of False Super Saiyan. It seems like, based on my research and looking into this form, no one really likes to acknowledge it because it was in such a weird, you know, it's the movies, it's non-canon, all of that. The games don't really care about that, but still, it's in such a weird space where I think they made that film without knowing fully what was going on with Super Saiyan and the series and all of that. So I don't think it's a thing that they'll ever call it False Super Saiyan, but it is a moment that is nowhere to be seen in this game. And as we are drawing near 10 years, they obviously are needing to either make new stuff, grab new things like the End of Z DLC from Kakarot, to have new reference material, stuff like that. But this particular moment is completely untouched in this game. And so I could easily see this being something that we see very, very soon. And in my opinion, if they were going to give an LR, you know, they're going to revisit the Slug film, I think you give the DFE to Slug and give the LR to the actual Goku moment. And then looking at random LRs and going in the opposite direction of what I'm saying with this Goku, the character that's not in this game is Annie Laza or Annie Raza, however you want to say it. And so I could see him being the LR to Gohan and to Piccolo, because why not? That's really all I have to say about that. Why, you know, like, why not? And because I was in this mood to just say base Gokus, and it was a base Goku here last year, and they really love base Gokus, why not an End of Z base Goku LR to pair up with a Part 1 DFE Oob? It's kind of a character we don't have that much in this game. It's kind of surprising when you look, like, he's not really there. So End of Z base Goku is absolutely something they could do stuff with him. They can make him go Super Saiyan. They can represent the secret ending of that DLC very easily here. And I have to imagine that is yet another one that in some form or fashion will probably make its way into this game. Now, that brings us to one of two of the big hitters of the year, right? Obviously, trying to predict worldwide is huge, and trying to predict the Tanabata celebration are both huge, because that's where LR Dokkan Festival units are present, which are like anniversary level characters placed elsewhere in the year. Usually not quite anniversary, totally anniversary level, but very, very close, right? At least in terms of like animations, because like last year, well, actually Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku had some really, really good animations. So as I just said, last year, this is the Full Power SSJ 4 time slot. The year prior to that was LR Vegeta and Trunks. So this year, I really feel like I feel like this is rumbling, bro. I just feel this feeling in my stomach. I'm just like, yeah, it's probably happening sooner than later. They gave Beast another character, right? A standalone Beast where he doesn't have to do an active skill for us to see him. It's a full-on Beast Gohan. So why not would they do that with Piccolo? So I'm coming out of the gate swinging here with an orange Piccolo pick. Now this is another one. I could probably stop saying this because I think most of you picked up on this. This is the case for more often than not. There's another one more. The part 2 is very much so related to the part 1. So when you're picking your part 1 unit here, you really need to take into consideration who they could pair that up with. And you know, last year we had Omega Shenron. The year before that we had Merz and Masu. So it is a fairly hype pick for the part 2 as well. So part 1, LR, Orange Piccolo, standalone, no transformations, tons of new animations they could still do here. And important to note that Beast Gohan likes having a Piccolo next to his side, and realistically speaking, we probably could use a new one. The old one is still really, really good in like a top 5 to 10 unit easily, but by no means would I say just because he exists, can we not have a standalone full-on Orange Piccolo? Like 100% trust he will be in this game at some point, so why not right here to follow up the hype off the 9th anniversary. Now, if not him, coming back to the Buu saga, why not Super Saiyan 3 Goku? Where is this character? Why is he not in the game? The last time they basically did anything with this scene, because I'm talking about specifically his Super Saiyan 3 form in Z, when he turned Super Saiyan 3, one of the like most hype moments, even the most chill of Dragon Ball fans, even people that aren't fans are aware of the Super Saiyan 3 moment. That is something that so many people know about. It is so iconic, it is so popular, and yet really only happens in this game twice. Once in the Buu section, which I think was also some scenes pulled from a movie, one of the movies where he goes Super Saiyan 3, and then the other one, which is the Intelligence Goku that I've already referenced, and who does need an EZA, by the way. It's a very quick transformation scene from 2019, and animations have gotten a lot better since 2019. Obviously, he could have a sick intro, he could be transforming, they could do a lot of stuff with just straight up Majin Buu Saga LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And last but not least, and the thumbnail of this video specifically, LR Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku. It is very interesting when you take a look at the Super Saiyan Blue Gokus in this game, because anytime he's been in LR, he's paired up with Vegeta. He has no real standalone SS Blue characters, right? He does have, SS Blue Kaioken, but I'm specifically talking about his U6 versus U7 version. Yes, I'm revisiting this because yes, I believe this is a character that needs to be represented in this game very, very badly, and as a very obvious part 2 unit attached to them. Matter of fact, all of these have very obvious part 2 units attached to them. So LR Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku, which he has references from the Xenoverse 2 stuff. There's so much, right, they could easily do with a Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku from U6 versus U7 that I really, really hope that he is absolutely on the list of characters they're releasing within the next 12 months. So why not right here in Tanabata? And that does bring us to the part 2 section, which the most obvious character on this list, besides, I guess, Hit, for Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken would be Cell Max. All right, they gave us the Gammas. They've nearly exhausted this movie, right? And I feel like just go ahead and get it knocked out. I'm telling you right now, in terms of my picks, I do actually believe Orange Piccolo and Cell Max so strongly for Tanabata, because I do think that they're already on a roll and they're building up to year 10, which we will talk about in this video, because there's very obvious omissions from my characters once you've done and you've seen them. But if you're going to do Orange Piccolo, you already have this like crazy roster of the superhero characters after 9th anniversary and the initial launch and all of that. Why not give us finally and in Carnival LR form Cell Max? Now, to pair up with Super Saiyan 3 Goku, maybe not as obvious, I'm actually not going to pick Majin Buu here since I just picked him like 2 months prior to this. I would say Kid Buu. Why not do this to give us finally Kid Buu? There's no way they've not seen so many pleas and cries to finally give Kid Buu proper LR representation in this game. And while yes, he wouldn't be exactly paired up with specifically with the Super Saiyan 3 Goku that I'm saying, because I think they could also just do a lot with Super Saiyan 3 Goku, where it could be a combination of when he first turns it, when he does it, you know, for Goten and Trunks, when he does it at the end of the series, during when he actually fights Kid Buu, all of that. Like, he could be a culmination of everything in one character, and then easily could give us a Kid Buu. They could make it a new Buuhan that then de-transforms down into Kid Buu or revives into Kid Buu. Like, there's lots of stuff they could do, but I would just personally rather it be a standalone, pure, raw LR Kid Buu. And then I already mentioned it, and you already guessed it because it's just so easy to guess with Kaioken, but LR hit. Right? We've already talked about him a couple of times, because I think that hit is a very massive omission and would help a lot of characters. And with Topo releasing right now, you know, tournament participants was one of his leader abilities, you know, pertains to U6 versus U7. And so I want to say that that category is going to get a lot of love moving throughout this year. It was another factor as to what I was when I was choosing my characters. Also, super bosses being another one too, and hit is a super boss, which would buff that category as well. Now that brings us to the end of July Dokkan Fest, which last year was Trunks. The year prior to that was Pan. This is the one where I'm not going to give myself a bunch of picks. I've just had to place Rose somewhere. And based on the fact that we know domain fixes are coming, so that way the domains can either overlap or at least can be, you can activate to override another one, all of that. I think this is where Rose will be. So I'm not giving myself a bunch of picks here. I just think this is where Rose will be. If he's not here, he will be probably somewhere else, but this makes the most sense because this doesn't have a part 2 LR, which he didn't have one for global. So I won't waste any more time with that. And that brings us into the big daddy of the entire list, Worldwide Celebration 2024. Now this is where things get interesting, and I mentioned it way earlier in the video, but UI Sign Goku is still basically untapped, right? Especially for episodes 109 and 110, when he literally goes in to sign for the first time. We see UI for the first time. That is still so untouched, and absolutely a character that I believe is here somewhere. Whether they do it via revival from like Blue into UI or whatever, however they want to do a new UI Sign Goku, I think he will absolutely show up somewhere in this calendar year. And I do think now that they did so much, they did superhero, they did Broly for anniversary, like those things are out of the question. Don't think Fusions will be here for Worldwide either. I think UI Sign is here to carry it. And because Jiren is also a character that has such little representation in this game, transforming Jiren would be his paired up character. Now the real question here is for Worldwide is, do they go back to dual LR DFEs to launch and then dual Carnival LRs to finish up in part 2, or do they continue with how they did it in 2022 with the Cooler Celebration and with the 9th anniversary of this year, where they do DFE LR with Carnival LR, DFE being Dokkan Festival exclusive. Sorry, I get asked that sometimes. I imagine most of you this deep in the video know what that means, but in case you don't, Dokkan Festival LR with a Tanabata, with a Carnival LR, and then they do that for a part 2 as well. I'm not entirely sure. I do think Jiren and Goku would both be Dokkan Fest level, but obviously as Jiren has a yellow coin LR, could see him being in Carnival as well. But I do think UI Sign, although they did give Gogeta blue Carnival LR, but I do think UI Sign would be a Dokkan Fest level LR for sure. Now, if they don't go tournament a power route, at least not here specifically, then it has been 3 years since the Namek celebration. And one thing that is kind of crazy that we don't have like basically at all in this game, except for like random Cyber units, stuff like that, but not big as like a DFE LR, is Kaioken Goku from Namek, right? And specifically, they could have one that would transform into Super Saiyan. And then on top of that, having a final form Frieza that would then transform into full power Frieza. So I think that is absolutely a huge pick that could be here for part 1, especially since we just got a first form Frieza for March. Granted, are there thematics that could reach that far? Not normally, but maybe in the case of this year where they really do seem to be having a very good approach to character selection, I could definitely see that being the case here for Worldwide. Now, this brings me back to an asterisk moment because I do think that we will see him somewhere. So why not here as LR's Movie 8 Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, who technically doesn't have an LR. His main representation in this game in a more modern era is the 2021 Saiyan Day Intelligence Unit, because the other two LRs are second coming, right? They are both second coming. The transforming one is second coming that fights Gohan and Goten, and then the original STR Broly, which by the way is old, so they could easily redo him. Both those is also second coming, right? Because he has like the burns on his chest and all of that. So movie 8 is still very underutilized. And then to pair that up with one of their favorite characters to do, I had some safe bets on this list, right? Base Gokus, Super Saiyan Gokus, pretty safe bets. But a Super Saiyan Goku specifically from the movie 8 film, where he absorbs all the energy from everybody to fight Broly. And another reason why I'm saying that, and it would probably make some people mad, is the fact that they already have animated the sequence of giving energy in the free-to-play Broly and Trunks unit, because everyone gives energy to them. And so something tells me that maybe they may have done that because they know they're doing a movie 8 Goku somewhere that will absorb the energy from all of the Z Warriors to finish off Broly. So that could potentially be here, which then brings us to part 2 of the worldwide celebration. If they go with revival UI or some form of the initial showing of UI Son Goku with a transforming Jiren, they could easily pair that up with a Goku, Frieza, and 17 unit. Goku and Frieza in that finale moment of the Tournament of the Power is one of those things where that unit is now will now be 6 years old for worldwide 2024. That will be a 6-year-old unit this year, which is really crazy to think about, but it's a moment they haven't touched since then. It's only been represented via that one singular LR, and I do think if they revisit it, they could easily Super Easy A it, now that we know Super Easy A is a thing, make it relevant again. It would then link with a Goku, 17, and Frieza unit, and would be something that they could change it up, because that sequence where 17, Goku, and Frieza are like running as the orbs are going by them, that is something that we really don't have in this game, and they could easily obviously just redo the entirety of Goku and Frieza together as well. So I think that they would make a good part 2 pairing to a part 1 that is a UI Sign Goku. And then if they needed to do something and they didn't want to do like a Dokkan original thing, they could easily do some sort of U11 or Topo and Jiren combo unit here to pair that up with them. But I do think like a U11 style unit or just another mix and mashup of characters from TOP is absolutely possible here. Especially looking back to 6th anniversary where somehow they released double 17 units. You know what I mean? Like literally anything is possible to pair it up with that, but I really just felt like we should probably be seeing a Goku Frieza, new version of the Goku Frieza finale in TOP sometime soon, so why not here? Now, if they go the Frieza and Goku route in part 1, I do think in part 2, there are some pretty obvious ones that I feel like we will see at some point in terms of game original type stuff, and so they could do something with Yardrat Goku and Trunks where they fight together. I think that would be a very, very cool unit and could relate to Goku and Frieza because it happens immediately after the Namek Saga stuff, and they could pair that with a revival Mecha Frieza. I think the thing that they can make unique with a Frieza is having him be revived into Mecha Frieza or something of that nature. This one was one of those where I was like, this could go many different ways in terms of a part 2. I think in some way Mecha Frieza could be involved because he has the LR with King Cold and he has some random character, units here and there free to play, but he's really isn't represented in a way that you would expect from such a big moment, at least for me growing up, right? Like in Z, when Trunks is there and Mecha Frieza shows up, granted it's really fast, but it was a very big and very memorable moment. And something I talked about in a Legends video that isn't in either game is if you remember back in the old Budokai days, you could equip Frieza with his spaceship item and he would then die and revive in a Mecha Frieza. And that's kind of something they could do that would be really cool and sort of like showing Frieza being rebuilt and turning into a Mecha Frieza form that we don't really have yet. So, and in order to do linkage, I guess they don't technically have to start the part 1 unit as a final form Frieza. They could technically start him as like a second form. Probably want to do first form since we've already had first form this year. They could definitely do some stuff so that way the units didn't completely overlap. It could be a way that they would link, still work together and still feel fresh. And then lastly, and this one probably felt pretty obvious because I already mentioned it earlier in the film, but to match up with Broly and Goku from movie 8, why not Gohan and Broly from movie 10? And if they're looking to buff the Super Bosses section, then they could do a Wrathful Broly LR here and pair that up with a standalone Super Saiyan God Vegeta, because again, I think we will see more Vegetas, or they could also pair it up with a Super Saiyan God Goku, both of which have a lot of stuff that's untapped in this game that they haven't really done. I know that the paired unit, the year 7 anniversary unit, does have a lot of those scenes, but they could absolutely revisit those and sort of like expand on them, especially for a worldwide LR character. Now, after Worldwide, we will obviously immediately get another Dokkan Festival standalone unit. This will be at the beginning of October. Last year, this was the Tournament of Power Androids. The year before that, this was the Path to Power Kid Goku. This year, in the vein of Dragon Ball, what about a DKP? Where is DKP, right? And this will, of course, have a Part 2 LR that is more than likely related to the Part 1 Dokkan Festival that we're talking about here. So I was also thinking, what could pair up with this Part 1 style unit? So DKP is another unit that I do think will at some point see a premium release, not just be free to play or a side banner, etc., etc. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right here, coming off the heels of a very hype celebration within Worldwide. If not DKP, there's a human that he doesn't have a Dokkan Fest yet. He has an LR in the terms of free to play, and he's been attached to other characters as well with Gohan, but Krillin! Oh my gosh, man. And specifically, they could do some pretty cool stuff. In terms of animations, they can mix and match. They can grab stuff from Saiyan Saga, all of that. But I'm really thinking more towards like an Android Saga Krillin would be really, really cool. And I think it could do some fun stuff with a Part 2 that we're about to talk about as well. And if not him, and I'm doubling down. I really am. I'm doubling down here. I'm gonna go with the Kefla. This was a time slot for Kefla previously, and I think we're due up for another Kefla. And I'm just not 100% convinced yet if they're gonna make her an LR. I would love to see her be made an LR, and I hope when I'm reviewing this video that she is an LR throughout some time this year. But I'm gonna go ahead and place her here as a TUR DFE, because then let's move on to the middle of October LR, which will be a gold coin, which is where they introduced last year with Rebrian actual pity in the game, where we could summon a certain amount and actually pick up the unit. This is gonna be hit. If somehow U6 versus U7 hasn't happened, if Hit hasn't shown up, I know this actually is kind of killing my chances of getting more characters right by bringing back to him, but it's because I'm just so convinced that Hit will be somewhere in this calendar year that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna double down, triple down, if you will, one last time and place him here in this section. Now, if they go with a Krillin, I would love to have a standalone LR Android 18. I feel like because they just touched on the Vegeta from that era, where we meet, you know, the androids and stuff like that, they really haven't done a lot with that 18 specifically. And I do think that that is a moment that will be represented at some point by a character. And the fact that she isn't standalone yet, why not go ahead and give her an LR, make her be standalone, and make it be sort of like the 18 that demolishes Vegeta. And they could, again, in terms of, I don't know why I keep coming back to the animation section, but it is just the fact that a lot of people are like, well, what did the animations? And I'm like, they can reference and they can basically make a hybrid of a character where, yes, it's like Android Saga, Android 18, but she could do things from stuff she does in TOP, stuff she does later in the series, stuff like that. And it can all just be under one character. And then to match up with DKP, pretty obvious here would be the punching through the stomach Kid Goku as an LR. And also, if you guys remember back to the LR list, that always listed a Krillin, Roshi, and Goku together. And so it could be that as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Goku that specifically fought DKP. It could just be like a Dragon Ball Saga, Goku, Krillin, and Roshi. But I do think it'd be really, really cool because we haven't seen that Kid Goku moment represented basically since, what was it, 2019 or 2018 with the Intelligence Kid Goku. So it'd be really cool to see that here. And that brings us to the end of October Dokkan Fest, the unit we will see prior to the Heroes celebration. And what begins, I guess, sometimes some people call like the November drought, because we do get one right at the end of October, beginning of November, and we basically don't get anything else until that last week of November. I went a little interesting with this. So a character that I've not mentioned here that I also think is somewhere, and it was a very glaring omission that they haven't touched in a while, is Super Baby. Whether it be Super Baby or Super Baby 2 or transforming or something. And I just don't know that they have something they want to do with a Part 2. Talk about that in a second. From anything in GT. So I wanted to choose a section to put Super Baby 2 where he didn't have to be matched up with someone he was versing, or didn't have to be matched up with a Part 2 or a Part 1. And so I'm placing him here. If not Super Baby 2, a Beerus. We haven't had a standalone Beerus in a really long time. If you're like, but Nana, we just got one. Not really. It was 2020 was the last time we had our own like DFE LR level standalone Beerus. So I could definitely see some representation for Beerus very soon. And if somehow Majin Buu hasn't made it somewhere, and again, another character that I'm tripling down on here, I can see Majin Buu getting just like a random DFE as well. So could be a Majin Buu of some sort in this section too. Now, before we move on from October, I just want to mention that this is probably around the time Daima will launch, but my guess is that Daima will absolutely have a collaboration with Dokkan. We'll have a collaboration with Legends and probably all the games. I'm not sure if out of the gates they'll give it a Dokkan Fest, possibly, because we're just been in such a drought for actual new content. So definitely is a possibility that somewhere in this month we see Daima, whether it be the beginning of month, the end of month, or even potentially the LR. But my guess is they're going to let Daima cook, let it get to the penultimate moment of the series, which then give us a Dokkan Fest level character or an LR level character, and then they'll do a Daima collab there. So maybe a Daima free to play collab where you can get like Kid Goku, Kid Vegeta, and all of those characters through some sort of new story event. And then they'll actually have a summon for a character towards the end of the series. And that will be when the Daima character launches, which is totally possible that Daima is like the dual Dokkan Fest for New Year's, but just wanted to place it out there. Very aware that Daima should have something in Dokkan. I'm just not sure if it'll be summonable until sometime later after it's launched, because I do believe it is going to be a 20 episode 20-week run, so it could be looking at a Daima collab, say post 10th anniversary, or maybe even during 10th anniversary, something of that nature. Now that would bring us to heroes. I typically don't try to predict this because it could be literally anything, but my best guess is that we will see some form of Gogeta here because there's been so much Vegeta representation. I think the next step, and they already did the Super Saiyan 3 Rose, I think the next step would be some form of a Gogeta, or they visit, instead of going all the Super Saiyan 4 forms, they visit like Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Vegeta or something like that. But moving on to the actual end of November Dokkan Festival exclusive unit, which last year was Android 21, which I am going to definitely use her as inspiration for my next pick, the next section here. But right now, I'm going to go back to underutilized humans and pick Tien, because this is where Yamcha was 2 years ago. And if not Tien, because I'm kind of surprised Hercule doesn't have like a very high class style unit in this game, because he is a fairly important character throughout the series, albeit maybe annoying to some people, but he is a character that I think definitely deserves a Dokkan Fest at the least. And so why not right here? And if not those two, a character that I sort of touched on in a variant of her, but Caulifla, because if they gave Kel one, and if they easy-aid Kefla this year, why not give us a standalone Caulifla? She's a pure Saiyan. She's basically Universe's 6, Goku, I guess, in a way. So why not give us a standalone Caulifla? Now that brings us to the middle of December Carnival LR, which last year was the trio Super Saiyans. The year before that was the Hachiyak. It was a Super Saiyan Goku, but essentially a Hachiyak Z Fighters crew. And this is where I wanted to take inspiration from the Android 21 pick, the game pick, because there is a particular moment that this game hasn't represented, and maybe it'll be utilized in a much more hype way. Not that this isn't a hype section. That's the Super Saiyan Blue Goku with future Gohan that we see in a sequence in Xenoverse. So that's a Xenoverse moment that I do think will be brought over into Dokkan somehow, and it seems like maybe that option to do so. I don't know that that's a moment that they would pair up with a part 1 or part 2 or a versus where it needs to be paired up with another character in any way, but it could be a standalone right here as a very hype carnival pick, a very interesting carnival pick, and gives them plenty of reference material to build around the Super Texan, all of that. Now, there was another character I've already mentioned, and somehow he doesn't show up, and they don't do a lot of stuff with Broly, which will botch a lot of my list, but a movie 8 Goku. I'm still so convinced that now that they have that charging up sequence from Trunks and the Broly unit, that they are going to use that again. And movie 8 Goku is even though we have so many Super Saiyan Gokus in this game, somehow that character specifically is really not been touched. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, that moment and that punch into Broly is completely non-existent in this game. And so I do think we will see him somewhere. And if not them, a character I've not mentioned yet, but I do think will be somewhere as well, because his intelligence version needs to be easy aid. It'll probably be easy aid well before this, but if not, right here, Super Saiyan 3 LR Gotenks, another character that was part of the campaign where we had a list of different LRs that we might see at some point. And he's never been an LR for whatever reason. And so I do think this is a moment where they like to place what they think are semi-hype characters. And I think Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks would fit that almost to the T. So we could see a Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks right here in this spot. And lastly, that brings us to the New Year's Dual Dokkan Fest finale of the year in the lead up to the 10th anniversary. Now, last year in 2023, that was Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Hirudegan. Year before that, they went crazy. It was the LR, superheroes with Piccolo and Gohan. And so now that we pretty much know that they are back to just a standard TWAR Dokkan Fest and they shouldn't be LRs, it is very interesting to try to pick this. I'm going to double down on a particular versus set that I said earlier that I do think could be here. And again, a character that I'm very surprised is not represented very well. That's back of Frieza. And it would be obvious to either pair him with a Yard Rat / Trunks combo style unit, some sort of like exchange unit or something, or just a straight up just Trunks. I know that he was a character 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, but still seems like a character that we absolutely could see come back very, very soon. And it was a character that felt really undertuned. So I could see that's something that they would want to revisit. And I feel like this team has an affinity for making Trunks characters. So like, there's got to be a Trunks probably somewhere on this calendar year. somewhere. Now, this time slot really likes to do movies, which is why I wanted to then bring in 2 movie fights that I think would be, and these are verses. They always feel like verses. So first up, we have Super Saiyan 2 Gohan versus Bojack. Bojack is a character that also we haven't seen in a long while at this point. His STR version needs easy aid. Probably won't wait this long to do so, but I guess it's not impossible as well. His LR tech, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, will also need to be easy aid. So I definitely could see that being somewhere in this calendar year. So I went ahead and placed it here at the New Year's, but it could be even sooner. It could be Golden Week, right? That's another thing too. I will be giving myself points just if I get characters right, because it is just so difficult to try to choose, you know, these themes and these moments. So absolutely, if Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and Bojack is for Golden Week, I'll still get some points, even though I didn't place it correctly. There will be a whole point system breakdown I'll talk about in a second. And then last, and another double down for me, I just have gotten so confident in some of these picks. I really have, and before I missed so many. But Super Saiyan God Vegeta or Goku versus Wrathful Broly. I think Wrathful Broly, he's like the big proponent to why I keep coming back to this, and the fact that I think a lot of the Super Saiyan God moments are really underutilized from that film. But Wrathful Broly, you know, releasing, getting his ZZA, and then now they've not made another unit in 5 years or 5 years is kind of crazy. At this point would be 6. And so I do think we'll see him at some point, and he would be so good to link up with the main headlining LR for the 9th anniversary, and would also fit perfectly on Super Bosses, which needs help. Now that would bring us to the 10th anniversary and some massive omissions from this list. What you'll notice is I didn't do any fusions, which seems crazy for me not to do. But the thing is, I think for 10th anniversary, I don't want to dive too deep into it because obviously I'll do a 10th anniversary specific video, but I do think they are fusing the games, right? The games will be coming together in sync. Who does that? Oh, that's right. People that are fusing. So I do think fusions will be represented. So because of that, I didn't want to do any fusions in this calendar year because I think they're saving any form of fusions, probably something new that we've not seen before, for the 10th anniversary. And so I just don't think we will see them there. It's also another reason why I do think it's possible we could see a Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta at some point this year, but also possibly not, because he might be involved somehow with the 10th anniversary. And since I just touched on it, the point system, the way I did this is I made an entire list of the characters, right? Then I just tried to plug and play them. And then for the sake of the video, I wanted to plug and play, and we go just in order of when they would release. But what I was really trying to do is just predict characters that we will see this year, and more or less themes, as you could sort of pick up on there. So those will be worth points. Then they'll be worth more points if I got them in the correct section, and then they'll be worth even more points if I got their specific form. So we'll have an entire point system breakdown when we come back to this video in a year, which I hope you'll stay tuned for, which means you should hit that subscribe button, which also means you should check out AFK Journey. Thank you so much for responding to this video, AFK Journey. Click the link down below in the description. And if you're in the mood for some more Nanogenix content right here on this channel, click right there and I'll see you over there in that one. Bye.